the more you read, the more you realize you want to read. The more you realize you have to read.
Right before I moved here, I kind of had like a panic because I was weighing my suitcase. I was only allowed to bring one 42-pound suitcase. And for me, my books alone weighed far over that, all the ones that I wanted to bring. It was the second day of orientation. I was with my orientation leader, and it was three other kids that I've actually become best friends with since then. And we stumble into the Abbey Bookshop. And I remember all of us were all just bewildered by the stacks of books and the little corners and cubbies, and just, I mean, it had any book you'd ever want to read at any time of the day, any time of your life. It was incredible.
One of the great things about being in a space that's so small and cramped and filled with books, and at the same time full of wonderful colors and shapes and sizes and pictures, and that is that it sort of puts you in contact with other people, strangers, and relaxes you and makes you feel so safe and comfortable that you can talk to a person beside you you've never seen before, and just sort of randomly start up a conversation.
There was a woman in the store and she had asked if I could reach a book for her by Joan Didion. And then she was like, oh, I have this book, but I lent it to my friend and they never gave it back. And then she made some joke about how you can lend books to friends, but you should never lend Joan Didion because she's too special. And then this other woman who was right next to her turned around and she was like, oh, I love Joan Didion. I wrote my master's thesis on her. And then they literally chatted for an hour and a half in the store. And they clearly just had so much in common. They were really similar people, but from different countries. And it was really heartwarming because they just clearly got on really well. And then they were like, do you have a recommendation for somewhere nice to get lunch nearby? And went for lunch together.
The vast number of people who come from all over the world to Paris, because it's Paris, but are also readers of books in English. And they seek us out, who are thrilled to see so many wonderful books in English in the capital of France. A little bit of an irony, but Paris is a mecca, and it's an international, multicultural mecca at that, and we're part of that.
So I grew up the youngest of three to a single mom. We didn't go on vacations or a lot of museums or amusement parks, so I didn't really get the traditional upbringing. But because of that, I just started reading all these books on the places that I wasn't able to go to and the things that I wasn't necessarily able to experience, and I felt like I was able to experience them secondhand through reading.
I would say that the independent bookstore is a little bit like the canary in the mine shaft, and that is once little bookstores like this disappear, then the hope for a diversified, humanistic, commercial dissemination of culture is really threatened.
Being around it all makes you realize how important literature and books truly are. It kind of reminds me of this episode of The Twilight Zone. it's the end of the world. There is an atomic bomb or something, but one man survived because he worked in a bank and he was in like the underground cellar when it all happened. So when he got out, all of the buildings were still intact, but everyone was just kind of gone. But he loved to read, and reading was something that his wife wouldn't allow him to do. So he thought that it was the best thing in the world because he stumbled upon a library just full of all the books that he's ever wanted to read. And the end of the episode, I'm sorry I'm going to spoil it, but he trips over a stack of books and his glasses fall off and they shatter, and he is someone that can't read without his glasses, so he could no longer read. And it's it's funny because the Twilight Zone episodes are supposed to be very like science fiction and scary, but I thought it was interesting that a world in which a person can't read is seen as just as scary as a world in which aliens invade.
I don't know how I could manage doing something other than being a bookseller. There are just so many wonderful ways in which to connect with people and to the world at large. For me, it's not a question of loving books, it's a question of loving life. And books are a way of giving words to life.